Imagine, if you will, that the universe is not a random collection of events, but a vast rhythmic dance, like the rise and fall of waves on the shore. We often imagine our lives as a straight path towards something better, something greater, something more. But life, in its mysterious wisdom, rarely flows in a straight line. It swirls and spins, sometimes lifting us high, and other times pulling us into depths we never saw coming. And in those depths, those silent, aching valleys, we are quick to call it failure, a setback, a loss. But what if it wasn't? What if the moments you were pushed back weren't punishments, but pauses? What if the delays weren't denials, but a sacred orchestration guiding you to something so perfectly timed that your mind couldn't have designed it if it tried? You see, we humans are eager to run ahead. We long for the summit without walking the slope. But the universe, in its infinite intelligence, often whispers, "Not yet." You may have felt broken when that door closed. Perhaps you believed that when they left it was a cruel ending, that when your plans fell apart, your dreams were slipping through your fingers like sand. But none of it was meaningless, none of it wasted. Even the tears you cried in silence watered the soil beneath your feet. The roots of your becoming were deepening in the dark, preparing for the bloom you couldn't yet see. Think about it. How many times have you looked back and realized that the very thing you once cursed turned out to be your greatest teacher? The betrayal that made you more discerning, the failure that redirected your path to something better, the loneliness that drew you closer to your soul. These were not accidents. They were initiations, invitations into the deeper mystery of who you are. In this strange, beautiful unfolding of existence, every setback is a cosmic setup. You are not separate from the rhythm of life, you are it. Just as a tree loses its leaves only to make room for new growth, just as the night falls not to signal death but to allow for rest, your moments of fall were never the end. They were the inhale before the exhale, the silence before the symphony, the stillness before the breakthrough. We've been taught to fear the fall, to panic when things don't go our way. But have you noticed how even your breath needs a pause? That life needs contrast? That without the winter, spring would have no meaning? Perhaps your setbacks were simply life's way of saying, "I'm not finished with you yet. There is more you're meant to see, more you're meant to become." And so here you are. After all the pain, all the confusion, all the questioning, you're still standing. Maybe not as the person you once were, but as someone deeper, wiser, more real. The cracks that once felt like flaws are now the places where the light gets in. The burdens that once felt like curses are now your sacred strength. Every single step backward carved a space within you, a space big enough to hold this moment, the one you are walking into now. It's no coincidence that you've arrived here. You didn't stumble into it. You were shaped for it, molded through the fire, strengthened in the waiting, prepared in the shadows. And now life is inviting you to rise, not in spite of what you've been through, but because of it. You were never behind. You were simply being set up for something only your soul could understand. So, don't regret the path. Don't curse the detours. Every fall taught you how to rise more honestly. Every no directed you closer to truth. Every loss emptied your hands so they could finally receive what was always meant for you. The universe hasn't forgotten you. It was setting the stage. And now the curtain rises. This moment is not your reward, it is your becoming. We are so often taught to run from the moments that feel like failure, to resist the ache of disappointment, to label every detour as a disaster. But have you ever truly sat with a setback? Not to escape it, not to rush past it, but to understand what it's doing beneath the surface. You see, life doesn't always speak in loud, clear words. Sometimes it communicates in the language of pauses, delays, and reversals. And if you listen deeply, you'll find that what we call a setback is not life's punishment, it's part of life's rhythm. Consider the way music works. There's melody, harmony, rhythm, but also silence. Without the pause between notes, there would be no music at all, just chaotic sound. Life is very much the same. In fact, those moments where everything feels like it's come to a halt, when your efforts seem to go unnoticed, when doors close with no explanation, those are not the endings we fear. They are silences in the symphony, not absences of meaning, but spaces in which meaning is being shaped. We are uncomfortable with stillness. We are terrified of losing progress. So when things slow down or fall apart, we panic. We look around for something to blame, ourselves, others, fate. But what if there's no one to blame? What if these pauses are sacred? What if they are necessary? Just as nature rests in winter to gather strength for spring, you too are required at times to stop moving, not because you've failed, but because something deeper needs to take root within you. When the ground seems to be pulled from under your feet, the mind screams, "Why now? Why me?" But have you ever asked what the ground is revealing in its absence? When everything is stripped away, your plans, your comforts, your certainty, what's left is the essence of you. And from that raw place, something ancient begins to stir, the truest parts of who you are: resilience, humility, wisdom. Don't emerge when things go according to plan. They awaken when the plan dissolves and you're left to feel everything. Imagine watching the tide roll back from the shore. The waters retreat, leaving the sand bare and empty. To someone standing there, it may look like loss. But anyone who knows the sea knows this isn't the end. It's the preparation for a wave. The greater the retreat, the more powerful the return. Life mirrors this principle. When you are pulled back, slowed down, silenced, it is not life forsaking you. It is life gathering force behind you. These so-called setbacks are the universe's way of deepening your roots before it lets you rise. A tree that grows too fast without developing strong roots cannot stand in a storm. So too with your journey. The times you felt broken were not signs of weakness. They were quiet recalibrations of your foundation. Every delay added weight to your core. Every fall taught you how to land with grace. And every silence strengthened your ability to hear the subtle, sacred rhythm of your own becoming. But it's hard to see this when you're in the thick of it, when your heart is aching, when everything you've worked for seems to vanish, when people walk away and answers don't come. In those moments, it feels like life has abandoned you. But often, it's in those moments that life is closest. Not in the form of loud reassurance, but as a quiet presence, like the warmth of the sun just before it rises. You can't see it yet, but it's already begun. Sometimes the universe has to pull you back to remind you of who you are. You may think you lost everything in that setback, but what if you only lost what you never needed? What if you were stripped not to be left empty, but to be made ready? You are not just here to survive, you are here to align. And setbacks, more than any other experience, shake you out of false alignments and force you to recenter. They ask you to question, to reflect, to stop moving just long enough to become real again. When you're moving fast, you don't notice what's breaking inside you. You don't see the cracks in the mirror you've been holding up to the world. But in a setback, all motion halts. The dust settles. And you are given the rare, painful gift of seeing clearly. Maybe what you were chasing wasn't yours to begin with. Maybe who you were becoming was not who your soul wanted to be. Maybe the setback was a rescue disguised as a loss. It's easy to romanticize progress. We love the rise, the victory, the applause, but we forget that even stars explode before they shine brightest, that caterpillars dissolve entirely before becoming butterflies, that seeds must be buried in darkness before they ever touch light. So why do we assume our journey should be any different? Why do we curse the darkness instead of honoring it as the sacred space where we are remade? A setback is not the enemy. It is the teacher, the mirror, the reshaper of dreams. And it always carries within it a hidden invitation to return to yourself, not the self built on achievement or approval, but the self that exists beneath it all, the self that knows how to sit with the unknown, the self that trusts the rhythm even when the beat changes, the self that remembers you are not separate from the unfolding, you are the unfolding. If you can embrace that, if you can stop fighting the tide and start listening to it, something extraordinary happens. You begin to see the beauty in the backward steps. You begin to find peace in the pause. And eventually, when you rise again, and you will rise, you'll do so not with fear, but with grace. Not with control, but with trust, because now you'll know you were never falling apart. You were simply being set apart. You were not being held back. You were being positioned. Everything you thought was against you was quietly working for you. Not in a way you expected, but in a way that, in time, will feel like the most natural unfolding of who you were always meant to be. We grow up believing that progress is a straight road, paved with milestones, achievements, and a clear destination ahead. We're told that if we do the right things in the right order, everything will unfold just as we imagined. But this belief is not only misleading, it's exhausting. Because the moment life begins to veer off course, we panic. We feel betrayed by the process. We start to question the value of our efforts and the meaning of our direction. But life was never meant to be a line. It is a spiral, a dance, a movement that circles back on itself, not to repeat, but to deepen. When you take a step forward and then find yourself seemingly 2 steps back, it is not regression, it's rhythm. Like the ocean waves, life moves with a force that is both push and pull, expansion and contraction. And the sooner we understand this, the less we will resist it. Most people view the cyclical nature of their lives as a flaw. They ask, why do I keep ending up here again? But that question misses the deeper pattern. You're not returning to the same place. You're revisiting the same themes at a new level. You're evolving through repetition. There is a natural intelligence behind the chaos we try so hard to avoid. What appears to be a delay in your life is often a sacred interval, a space being carved out not to punish you, but to refine you. There are lessons your soul must learn that cannot be rushed. Certain truths about your strength, your intuition, your purpose. They do not arrive when everything is easy. They arrive when your plans crumble, and you are forced to see with new eyes. But it's uncomfortable, isn't it? We are conditioned to believe that forward motion is the only motion that matters, that if we're not constantly building, acquiring, moving, we are falling behind. Yet, the most profound changes often happen when we are still, when things feel stagnant, when we are no longer in control of the timing. And in that discomfort, the ego begins to shed. You start to loosen your grip on what you thought life should be, and slowly you begin to glimpse what life could be. Think of the seasons. Spring does not come immediately after fall. Winter is necessary. It is during winter that roots grow deeper, unseen. The trees may look dead, the earth may seem barren, but beneath that apparent stillness, a quiet preparation is underway. When you experience a season where nothing seems to be blooming, don't be fooled by the surface. You are not stagnant. You are preparing. Your soul is gathering energy, clarity, and resilience for what comes next. Even pain itself follows a rhythm. It rises, it peaks, it retreats. And in that retreat, you begin to breathe again. The rhythm of healing is not linear. One day you feel strong, the next you collapse under the weight of a memory. But that is not failure. That is rhythm. That is life moving in waves within you, not to torment you, but to clear you of what no longer serves. We often think we're late, that we missed the moment, that others are ahead while we're stuck. But this idea of being behind is an illusion created by comparing your path to someone else's. The truth is, no one is ahead or behind. Everyone is simply moving to the beat of their own divine timing. Just as no two waves crash on the shore at the same second, no two journeys are ever identical. And when you stop chasing someone else's pace, you begin to move in harmony with your own. There is something sacred about letting go of the obsession with the rival. When you understand that life is not a destination, but a journey of unfolding, you no longer rush the process. You begin to see beauty in the setbacks, wisdom in the detours, and purpose in the pauses. What once felt like wasted time becomes your greatest teacher. What once seemed like failure begins to reveal itself as redirection. Sometimes the best thing that can happen to you is not getting what you thought you wanted, because the truth is you were only imagining from the place you were in at the time. Life in its mystery sees a broader view. It knows what will nourish your spirit and what will hollow you out. And so it delays what isn't right. It removes what isn't yours. It closes doors, not to keep you out, but to protect you from entering a room too small for your future self. This is why the spiral matters, because you return to familiar places with new wisdom. You encounter the same patterns, but this time you respond differently. You are not who you were the last time you faced this challenge. You've evolved. You've softened in some places and hardened in others. You've learned that surrender is not weakness but power, that patience is not passive but intentional, and that silence is not emptiness but preparation. The spiral is the universe's way of deepening your journey. It's not a mistake. It's a design. And when you begin to move with it rather than against it, you find a peace that does not depend on circumstances. You stop measuring your worth by speed. You stop defining success by straight lines. You begin to trust the timing of your life. You begin to breathe with the rhythm of the universe. The very setback you thought would destroy you becomes the opening that awakens you. The delay you cursed becomes the interval that recalibrates you. The space you once feared becomes the sanctuary where you finally remember who you are. Not who you pretend to be, not who others expect you to be, but the you that exists beyond the timeline, beyond the story, beyond the spiral. When you look back, you may not be able to chart your life in a straight line, but you will see the spiral. You'll notice how each turn brought you closer to something truer. You'll realize that every setback was not a step away from your purpose, but a deeper step into it. Because what you needed was never speed, it was rhythm. It was alignment. It was timing. And in the end, that's what makes the journey sacred. Not how fast you got there, but how deeply you arrived. Pain has a curious way of carving space within us. It stretches the heart beyond its previous limits. It pulls open the soul to dimensions it never knew it held. And in the moments when we feel like we're breaking, when the weight of disappointment, betrayal, or failure feels unbearable, something quietly and profoundly begins to happen. We begin to deepen. Not in the way the world typically rewards, not with medals or applause, but with stillness, with wisdom, with a kind of inner knowing that only suffering can teach. There is a sacred alchemy that takes place in the shadows. Pain, for all its discomfort, is not just a tormentor. It is a sculptor. It strips away the illusions we once clung to. It removes the layers of identity built on fear, approval, and false confidence. It exposes the rawness of our humanity and demands our attention. And while most of us would do anything to avoid it, pain has a language of its own. A language that speaks not to the mind but to the soul. And when we finally stop resisting and start listening, it begins to reveal its purpose. We're taught to run from pain, to numb it, deny it, mask it. But pain that is avoided becomes pain that festers. It doesn't disappear. It waits, and in waiting it grows heavier. But when we turn toward it with curiosity instead of judgment, with presence instead of panic, it starts to show us something. That the wound is not just a site of damage, but also a portal. That the suffering isn't just destruction, it's transformation. And suddenly the question shifts from why is this happening to me to what is this trying to awaken within me? For the soul doesn't grow in comfort. It grows in pressure, in fire, in uncertainty. Not because life is cruel, but because depth cannot be handed to us. It must be discovered. And pain is often the guide that leads us there. It teaches us what peace actually means. Not the absence of noise, but the presence of inner stillness in the midst of chaos. It teaches us compassion, not as pity, but as the ability to sit with another's suffering without the need to fix it. And it teaches us strength, not the kind that shouts, but the kind that endures in silence. When life wounds you deeply, when it takes what you thought you couldn't live without, when it tests you in ways you never imagined, you begin to see who you really are. The masks fall off. The ego loses its grip, and underneath it all, you find something eternal, a quiet resilience, a sacred fire, and knowing that you have already survived what others thought would break you, that your scars are not evidence of defeat, but proof of passage, that your pain is not your identity, but part of your initiation. The world often rushes us to heal. It hands us platitudes like move on, be strong, don't dwell. But healing does not obey timelines. It does not respond to force. Healing unfolds in waves. It comes quietly, sometimes invisibly, and often in unexpected ways. One day, the memory that used to bring tears brings silence instead. One day, the ache that lived in your chest softens just a little. One day, you catch yourself laughing, and it surprises you. These are the subtle signs that the pain is doing its work, not by vanishing, but by integrating, not by erasing the past, but by reshaping the way it lives inside you. These are the subtle signs that the pain is doing its work, not by erasing the past, but by reshaping the past into, or effectively, unconsciously, speak, and pain opens you. It removes the filters. It allows you to see what matters and what doesn't, what's real and what was merely a performance. The things you once obsessed over seem small now. The opinions you once chased lose their power. You begin to crave presence more than approval, truth more than comfort. And suddenly, the life you once thought you lost becomes the soil for the life that's actually meant for you. It's strange how pain humbles us. It quiets the mind. It slows us down. It forces us to be honest, not with others, but with ourselves. It asks, who are you when there is nothing left to prove? Who are you when no one is watching? And in answering those questions, you begin to realize that your value was never in what you accomplished, or who you pleased, or how well you held it all together. Your value's in your being, in your breath, in your willingness to rise again and again, even if no one sees it. There is a sacred kind of beauty that forms in people who have suffered deeply. You can see it in their eyes, the depth, the softness, the strength that doesn't need to shout. These are the ones who don't speak much, but when they do, their words carry weight. They've learnt to listen, not just to others, but to life itself. They've learned that the most important things are often unspoken: presence, peace, grace. And they've learned that while the world may celebrate surface success, the soul celebrates survival, quiet survival, spiritual resilience. Your pain did not come to destroy you. It came to reveal you. It came to burn away what was never truly you. It came to prepare you for a life that is lived from the inside out. A life where your joy is not dependent on outcomes, where your peace is not tied to circumstances, where your worth is not negotiable. And that kind of life, that kind of soul, is not born in the light. It is born in the fire, in the places where you thought you were losing everything, but were actually being given something far more valuable: depth. You see, the surface life is fragile. It looks good, but it can't hold weight. It crumbles under pressure. But the deeper life, the one built through pain, humility, surrender. That life can weather storms. That life becomes a shelter for others. That life becomes a vessel for wisdom, compassion, and truth. And that life is not a result of avoiding pain, it's the result of walking through it, slowly, intentionally, with your eyes open and your heart still soft. It's easy to see pain as an enemy, but if you look closer, you'll see that it has been your teacher all along. It taught you to slow down. It taught you to be present. It taught you to let go of illusions. It brought you face to face with yourself, and in doing so, it deepened your capacity to love, to forgive, to hope. It expanded your soul's container, and now you are able to hold more joy, more truth, more life, not because life got easier, but because you became deeper, because you became stronger, because you finally stopped resisting the fire and let it refine you. You can wash yourself, exhibit, lick your feet, eat, sleep, wake up, drink, breathe, disembark. Not because life got easier, but because there comes a moment when you look back and realize that everything that once felt like it was breaking you was in fact building you. That the nights you cried alone, the days you felt invisible, and the seasons of silence were not without design. Life doesn't always give us explanations in the moment. It doesn't hand out clarity when we're in the middle of pain. It lets us sit in it, breathe in it, stretch and ache and question in it, and only later, sometimes years later, we begin to see the pattern, the weaving, the quiet purpose hiding beneath the noise. You didn't survive all that by chance. You endured it because something stronger within you refused to be extinguished. That strength, that fire was not given to you in comfort. It was forged in your struggle. You don't emerge from those places as the same person. You emerge changed. What once felt like the end, in hindsight looks more like a sacred redirection. You were not thrown into chaos to be forgotten. You were placed there to discover something you never would have sought out willingly, your own depth. The truth is, we don't choose to become stronger. We are chosen by life to become stronger. It places us in the kind of experiences that demand something hidden within us to rise. The version of you that stands today would not exist without what broke yesterday. And though it may be tempting to wish it had all gone differently, deep down you know it couldn't have. It had to happen this way. You had to lose what you thought you needed so you could receive what was actually meant for you. There is a quiet power in recognizing that your past didn't destroy you. It refined you. The betrayals didn't define you. They revealed who was never meant to walk with you into the next season. The delays didn't diminish you. They deepened you. The rejections weren't personal. They were divine protection. And though you might never get an apology for the way some people treated you, life has its own way of making peace, not through revenge, but through evolution, through growth, through becoming so aligned with your truth that you no longer carry the weight of what was never yours to hold. You begin to realize that healing doesn't always look like forgetting. Sometimes it looks like remembering without pain. Sometimes it looks like walking past the very place you used to break and realizing you no longer need to look away. You can stand there, fully present, fully you, and not crumble, not because the past changed, but because you did. You now carry within you a strength that wasn't born in sunshine, but in storm. You now walk with a kind of grace that can only come from walking through fire and choosing not to let it harden you. The most powerful souls are not the ones who've never been hurt. They are the ones who've been shattered, misunderstood, abandoned. And yet they still choose to be kind. They still choose to hope. They still choose to believe in goodness. Not because they've never seen darkness, but because they've faced it and decided it wouldn't define them. That's real power. That's real transformation. And it doesn't come from pretending to be okay. It comes from acknowledging that you weren't. It's that one thing. You can't betray me. You can't betray me. You can't betray me. It's that, one said. Shams, it's the misery of not being here now. And we don't often see our own growth while it's happening. We're too busy surviving, too busy wondering if we're doing it right. But growth doesn't need your permission. It happens in the background, in the daily moments when you choose to get up again, when you stay soft in a world that told you to be hard, when you keep your heart open even when it's been bruised. That's where the transformation occurs. Quietly, without applause, without recognition. And suddenly one day you realize that you are no longer triggered by the same things, that the same pain doesn't echo the way it used to, that you've changed, not because you forced it, but because life shaped you in ways you never expected. And the beauty is, this growth can't be undone. Once you've seen your strength, once you've tasted your resilience, you can never unknow it. You carry it with you, even in the moments when you feel fragile again. Because strength is not the absence of vulnerability, it's the ability to hold space for both. It's knowing you can be soft and powerful at the same time, that you can bend without breaking, that your past didn't disqualify you, it equipped you. Your ability to survive is not just a badge, it's your foundation. You've been through too much to settle for anything that doesn't align with your soul now. You also stop needing validation from the same places you once craved it. The applause, the attention, the approval. It loses its hold because you begin to realize that true peace doesn't come from outside. It doesn't come from being seen. It comes from being known. First, by yourself. The more you make peace with your journey, the less you need to explain it to others. The less you need people to understand why you walk the way you walk, why you speak the way you speak, why you pause where others push. You're not walking their path. And they didn't live your pain, so their opinions, while loud, are not sacred. You know what is sacred? Your evolution, your becoming, your decision to grow from the things that tried to bury you. And this growth, it never stops, because life doesn't stop teaching. Every new level brings new lessons, but now you are not afraid of them. You don't see challenges as threats. You see them as invitations. Invitations to go deeper, to rise higher, to let go more freely. You stop resisting the process and start trusting it, even when it doesn't make sense, especially when it doesn't make sense. Because your track record with surviving confusion, with making it through uncertainty, is perfect. You've made it through every hard thing that was designed to stop you. And not only did you make it, you grew, you evolved, you became. You carry the proof of your transformation not in what you show, but in what you no longer seek. You no longer need to chase what's not yours. You no longer beg for love that doesn't see you. You no longer shrink yourself to be accepted, because now you know what you're made of, and you know that your story is still unfolding, and you've only just begun to see the purpose in the pain. It didn't come to destroy you. It came to reveal the strength you never knew you had. The kind of strength that speaks in silence, that stands alone if necessary, that rises without permission. You didn't just survive your past. You outgrew it. And now it no longer defines you. It refines you. And that is your quiet power. That is your sacred victory. There is something profoundly mysterious about the timing of life. You walk through seasons where nothing makes sense. You sow seeds with faith, water them with hope, wait through dry days, through silent nights, through disappointments and unanswered prayers. And for the longest time, nothing seems to change. The ground looks barren. The skies seem indifferent. You question whether any of it mattered, whether all the effort, all the inner work, all the pain you endured in silence was worth anything at all. But then quietly, subtly, something shifts. And it doesn't announce itself with fanfare. It arrives like dawn, soft at first, then brilliant. The moment you thought would never come. The one your heart dared to imagine, but your mind doubted, begins to unfold right in front of you. It often comes when you're not looking. Not because life enjoys playing hide and seek, but because your vision has changed. You no longer chase the outcome with desperation. You've released the need to control. You've stopped forcing the bloom, and instead you've become present in the waiting. That shift, subtle as it is, changes everything. It opens a space for life to do what it does best. Surprise you, not with what you wanted, but with what your soul needed all along. You begin to see that all the delays were not denials. They were divine appointments. The waiting wasn't punishment. It was preparation. Every tear you cried in private, every rejection that crushed you, every lonely night where it felt like you were the only one walking a silent road, none of it was wasted. Each of those moments was planting something inside you. Something you couldn't see, something that needed the pressure, the darkness, the silence to take root. The things that grow in sunlight are visible to all, but the things that grow in darkness are sacred. They are the parts of you that no one applauds. Your patience, your perseverance, your ability to stay kind in the face of cruelty, your willingness to keep showing up even when no one's watching. These are not small things. They are the foundations of a life that doesn't collapse when storms come. And now, as you stand at the edge of this moment, this quiet unfolding, this sacred arrival, you begin to realize that you are not the same person who once begged for it. You're more grounded, more aware, more in tune with what truly matters. That's the hidden gift of the journey. It doesn't just give you the blessing, it prepares you to hold it. Because what use is a bloom to a rootless tree? What good is a reward if your character isn't ready to carry its weight? Life in its infinite wisdom doesn't just give you what you ask for. It makes you into the kind of person who can honor it. This moment you're walking into now, the peace, the clarity, the opportunities, the love, the breakthroughs, they're not accidents. They are the harvest of seeds sown long ago. Seeds that look like heartbreak. Seeds that looked like silence. But beneath the surface, beneath all the things you couldn't explain, something holy was taking place. You were being positioned, realigned. And though it felt like nothing was happening, everything was. Life doesn't bloom loudly. It blooms when you're ready to receive it, not just with open hands, but with an open heart. There's a kind of beauty that comes when life meets you in your becoming, when it greets you not just because of what you did, but because of who you've become through it all. You are no longer chasing things from a place of lack. You are no longer trying to prove yourself. You've stopped waiting for the world to validate you. Instead, you've become the kind of person who is rooted in truth, in presence, in quiet confidence. And because of that, what comes to you now is not chaotic. It's aligned. It matches your frequency. It honors your growth. It doesn't rush in and leave. It arrives slowly, deeply, and it stays. People may look at your life now and call it sudden. They'll say, you're lucky, or it happened overnight. But you'll know the truth, that nothing about this was sudden. It was the culmination of 1,000 unseen battles, of choosing growth when bitterness was easier, of showing up with integrity when no one was clapping, of doing the inner work when it felt invisible. The bloom is beautiful, yes, but the real miracle was the root. The real victory was every silent decision you made to not give up. This is the irony of the journey. The bloom, the reward, the visible fruit, it's just a reflection. It's a mirror showing you what's always been inside you. And when it arrives, it doesn't just change your circumstances, it changes your memory. You begin to see your past differently. You stop cursing the setbacks. You start blessing them. You no longer see the rejection as cruelty. You see it as redirection. You see it as redirection. You don't resent the closed doors. You thank them for making you strong enough to wait for the right ones. What once felt like suffering now feels like sculpting. It's in these moments, the ones where everything begins to align, that you understand why you had to wait, why it couldn't come sooner, why it had to happen the way it did. Because now, you're not just stepping into something, you're stepping into yourself, fully, authentically, without apology. You're no longer fitting into places where you don't belong. You're no longer shrinking to be accepted. You've stopped running from who you are. You've begun to own it. And yet, this moment is not the end. It's not the peak. It's just a glimpse, a gentle whisper from life that says, this is what it feels like when you stop forcing and start flowing. This is what it looks like when you trust the rhythm rather than fear the silence. Because it was never about rushing to the next thing. It was always about becoming the person who can stand in the blessing and not lose themselves, the person who can receive goodness without questioning whether they deserve it. You've waited long, you've grown deep, and now what's blooming in your life isn't here to distract you, it's here to reflect you, to confirm that the path you took, the one filled with detours and delays and dark valleys, was never wrong. It was sacred. It was intentional. And every moment of confusion, every feeling of being forgotten, every painful chapter that you thought was leading to nothing was actually setting you up for everything, for this moment, this breath, this peace, this you.